Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
This the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Program.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 527 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as always by former heavyweight world title challenger, the main man himself, Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing this week?
Oh, I'm doing great, my man. How about you?
Always good when speaking with you, Eddie. That is the truth. We're going to dive straight in then to the review part of the show. We're going to start here last Friday, the 21st, at the Brighton Centre in Sussex, United Kingdom. This one was live on Channel 5. We had over here Kieran Malloy move to 13-0, the perfect record. A points win for him over 8 against Zeus Soberanis, who is now 11-6. Also on that card, friend of the show, Harlem Eubank, now 22-1. A wide points, victory, unanimous decision over Josh Wagner, now 19-2. Like I say, Eubank 22-1. Wasn't the most entertaining fight to watch. It was an exciting and spicy build-up, but the fight itself, the early rounds I suppose were okay, but as the fight went on, it was just more and more of the same, and it was a little bit boring, I guess, towards the end of the fight, but nonetheless, a dominant win there for Harlem Eubank against a decent opponent, really. He gets a good win there. Harlem moves on, hopefully, to a bigger fight next. We're going to go now to this one here. It went down, it was a big card. It went down at the AMB Arena in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Over here we had Vito Mielnicki Jr. moved to 22-1, a TKO for him in the 9th round against the previously undefeated 21-0 Sam Nmoma. He's now 21-1. He loses his Vito Mielnicki with a fantastic shot in that 9th round. Really decent fight that, by the way, for the vacant WBO global middleweight title. And like I say, the finish was exquisite from Vito Mielnicki Jr. Now 22-1, like I say, TKO in the 9th of a scheduled 10 there. Also on that card, we saw Brian Norman Jr. lose his He lost his WBO welterweight world title over 12 rounds, unanimous decision in favour of Devin Haney, now 33-0. Norman down in round 2. Not enough creativity from Brian Norman, Eddie. I felt he was just too predictable. No real head movement. He got dropped early, which obviously was well against the script. But that did seem to dent his confidence for a few rounds. And then I felt he kind of tried, to really put his punches together late on. But it was a little bit, too little too late kind of thing. And even though Haney's a friend of the show and all the rest of it, there is something just a little bit unlikable about Haney. I can't stand the dad at all, but you do have to give Devin Haney some credit. He moved up to welterweight. He boxed the so-called boogeyman of the division, and even though I think the welterweight division is still at its weakest point for many, many years, you got to give Haney credit for beating Norman. A lot of people, felt that Norman was going to win the fight. He had looked very impressive in his, in his little run before this. And the bookies had it completely split. There was no favourite. They were both exactly the same price. So it goes to show how even it was expected to be. And it wasn't even in the end. We saw it play out. Devin Haney was a few levels above Brian Norman there. He boxed quite perfectly, actually, Devin Haney, particularly at times when he was on the front foot as well. I quite liked that. Brian Norman being pushed back. You have to say it was a good performance from Haney despite what you think of the man. Did you have any comments on that one, Eddie, before we move on to the other fights on the card?
Yeah. Honestly, man, Haney he surprised me in that he looked strong. You know what I mean, as far as punches are concerned, but just in general, he looked stronger. And like Norman, he's the like you said, the boogeyman, the big puncher, the knockout guy in the division. So you would expect Norman to hold that, but it just looked like it looked like a mismatch a bit, in a sense. Even though I think Norman did a little better going down, getting as it got later in the fight, he started to seem to have figured something out a little bit to even make it a little tiny bit more competitive. But I just think that Devin was he looked better than I was expecting him to look at 47. But I guess when you don't have to worry about that crazy weight cut and you could actually, go in with, your energy at an all-time high, I mean, those are the kind of things that have happened. So he probably was stronger, his energy levels, his mind was clearer. You could see everything was a lot better. I expected him to win a decision, but it looked like early on that he was possibly going to get a stoppage. So, and I thought that, over the next couple of rounds after that, he was, because he could obviously, get his respect and hurt Norman. I thought that maybe he would even stop him, but he did the same thing with Regis Prograis, where he dropped him early and, he ended up, getting to the point where he can go through the fight and he was able to deal with the power as it got later. But yeah, all around good performance for Haney. You know what I mean? Like I said, I think of all the guys that are in and around that, that were in and around that 35, 30, and 40, up to the even 40 division, and now him going up to 47, I thought I don't want to say the weakest, but he was one of the ones that was at the bottom for me. And it's not his skill level. He's extremely skilled, and he's done so well with his career up to this point. It's just, I think that his power is obviously in question, but then that's no excuse because Shakur's power is not that great. But I think his boxing IQ is good, but I think his defensive responsibility is down. And for him being a not big puncher, he needs to have a better IQ defensively, and he needs to take care of things defensively a little better before, it can bite him. Well, it already kind of bit him in the ass with Ryan Garcia, but yeah, if he gets that intact, he'll be a lot higher, and he'll do a lot better. I think he's an extremely good offensive fighter, but he really needs to work on his focus as far as defense is concerned.
Yeah, for sure. Moving up the card once again, we had Sam Noakes, friend of the show, now 17-1. He loses his it was for the vacant WBO lightweight world title against the also undefeated Abdullah Mason, now 20-0, now the youngest world champion in boxing. Wow, what a fight, obviously Sam Noakes got cut early on from a head clash. The accuracy of Mason's shots, though, were so impressive, I have to say. I think the power and the strength was with Sam Noakes. Obviously, there was a lot of, I don't want to say roughing Mason up on the inside, but, it was a rough physical kind of fight, and Sam Noakes really did well with that stuff. Yeah, I liked the hooks that Sam Noakes was throwing as well. He'd throw these big hooks that seemed to get Mason around the temples, but he took them. Really, really, really good fight early on and really good fight late on. But the first sort of 4 rounds were really, really close. I think it could have been 2-2 or it could have been 3-1 either way. I felt the 4th round was definitely a Noakes round. Again, around the midway rounds, really close rounds, around sort of round 5, round 6. Obviously a hard fight to score through the first half of the fight. Both men had big moments. Abdullah Mason's jab, I felt as well from range, was such an impressive punch. Sam Noakes, I felt was a little bit flat-footed and, at range, largely ineffective. But Mason, with his jab, when he did use it, like I say, it looked like a great weapon for him. But yeah, he couldn't keep Noakes behind that jab at all times at all. Round 7 was a big round for Sam Noakes. He seemed to hurt Mason to the body. I really felt that Sam would grow stronger in the later rounds anyway, because I know that Mason hadn't gone past, I think it was round 6, I believe. So obviously unknown territory kind of thing for him. But then credit to him, because after Noakes had a big round in the 7th, round 8 was a big round for Mason. Noakes was really quiet in that round. I actually wondered if he felt a few of the body shots himself that he took. And again, as well, the cut was bad at this stage. You've got to wonder, what would the fight have looked like if Sam didn't have that bad cut early on, and maybe if neither man had the cut, or maybe if it was Mason who was cut, it would have probably been a completely different fight. But again, credit to Mason, his athleticism was on display. Very, very athletic guy. He answered a lot of questions in there as well. He got hit many times. He took Sam Noakes' shots, which almost no one can take at the weight. So he showed a good chin, which I think has answered a few questions where obviously we saw him get dropped before twice in a round against a guy whose name I can't even remember without checking it up, So I think he's answered those questions. He's very, very fit. He's definitely a 12-round fighter. He did exceptionally well considering he hadn't been past 6. This rough and tough type of fight, it was a grueling 12 rounds. He got through it, so there's a lot of there's a lot of things he's answered there, and he's definitely got a lot of heart and a good chin. I think round 10 was a big round as well for Mason. It looked at one point like Noakes might be on the verge of going down, and I was worried how he might look in the next couple of rounds. But then round 11, Noakes had a massive round as well, So, yeah, for me, it goes up there with one of the fights of the years for sure, that one, all day long. But again, I didn't really score it strictly round by round, and it was very, very close. Honestly, it could have gone either way in the end, I felt. I don't know how much of that you saw already, but a brilliant fight, trust me.
Yeah, it was. And I actually turned on the replay, but we had it on in the gym, and I would, peek in, and because I missed a few of the early rounds. And then I would get bits and pieces over the next couple of days because I wanted to really sit down and watch it and really see what happened early in the fight, because it looked at times as the fight wore on, especially in the later rounds, that Abdullah Mason started to kind of not take complete control. What was the scorecards in the end? I couldn't hear it in the gym, to be honest.
Oh, let me just.
Was it a close unanimous or?
Scores in the end: 7-5 twice and 117-111, which is
8-4, I think.
9-3.
9-3. My fault. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, 8-4 would have been 116-112. Yeah, 116-112.
So yeah, they would have cards.
But okay. I don't know if that reflects from what I seen. I mean, it was like, I agree, it was a kind of a back and forth thing. I thought Mason was up, but it seemed close enough to question, what I mean, possibly saying, maybe he can get in there, and maybe it depends on what the judges like to a degree, because there was a lot of times that Noakes is, like you said, his power and his aggression and just overall presence in there was menacing at times, but to credit to Mason, he was able to continue his streak and his run. His boxing ability is unquestioned. A lot of people really see him as one of the futures of the division, but now you see how good Sam Noakes was too in the fight, puts him in that conversation too, because not a lot of people was expecting much from him. Didn't even really know him obviously, especially here in the States. We didn't really know too much about him or care to know until he fought Abdullah Mason, and Abdullah Mason was one of the biggest prospects and contenders, and he's going to be everything and great and blah blah blah, and then Noakes gets in there and gives a really, really good performance and a great account of what he is and who he is. So yeah, man, I think we that fight really represents the future of this of boxing, and both of those guys should get should get a round of applause for what they did and what they put on the line. and two undefeated young guys, and obviously have an opportunity to get a title is an awesome thing to see. Nobody ducking nobody; they going in and just fighting. Truthfully, not a lot of people knew about Noakes in the first place, so maybe if they did, they wouldn't have readily took that fight as easy. But just from Abdullah Mason's attitude and the way he trains, the way he performs, I don't think he's backing down from anything. So I really like the fight. I really like what it represented, and if boxing is going to continue like this and going in this direction, we got a good future ahead of us.
Yeah, particularly the future of that lightweight division. It was like I said, it was a fantastic fight once again, and I'm gutted for Noakes just because I know him personally, and he's a really, really, really nice guy. But yeah, I think he'll definitely come again. I just felt on the night, like when they were sort of getting ready to walk, I just had a strong feeling that Noakes is going to be able to bully Mason, and at times he did, but credit to Mason for getting through all of that as well, because like I say, he answered a lot of questions, and he's the real deal for sure. And I think both men are definitely probably top. Can't even think who's the other champions at lightweight, but they're right up there, man. They're right up there, and I would love a rematch. I would love to see Noakes come back. I hope he's not, going to be away for too long. It'd be great to see both men do big things in 2026. Also on the card, we had Jesse Bam Rodriguez move to 23-0, I was going to say a unanification then. I was going to make a word up. A unification with Fernando Martinez, who was undefeated as well. Now 18-1 though. He loses his yeah, what a performance from Jesse Bam Rodriguez. It was pretty much punch perfect. He did not put a foot wrong. I don't often say this, but it was like a cheat code watching Jesse Bam Rodriguez. He was phenomenal the other night. It has to be said. Yeah, thoroughly impressive. Didn't really put a foot wrong. He had everything that Martinez brought and more. He just had an answer to everything. Martinez, people were kind of criticizing him for maybe not performing like they thought, but I just think Bam was on another level. Like the footwork of Bam, it was on another level. The punch picking, the hand speed, everything. There was nothing that Martinez could do with him. He just was not on the same level, and to get him out as well, that KO in the 10th round, wow, massive statement from Bam. And again, we just want to see him in these bigger fights, and this was a big fight, at the weight, but he come through it with flying colours. And then obviously the main event, David Benavidez, still perfect, 31-0 now, a TKO for him in the 7th against Anthony Yarde, now 27-4. Hard luck for Yarde again, man. That one for the WBC light heavyweight world title. Yarde down in the 7th. Benavidez had a point deducted though for hitting Yarde. Had 2 points deducted, for hitting Yarde while he was down. Yeah, another exciting fight for how long it lasted. I mean, Benavidez did dominate, let's be honest. I gave Yarde maybe a couple of rounds. I think that was generous. I gave Benavidez the first round, but it was a feel-out round, but he was on the front foot. I gave Yarde the second round, to be fair. I felt he boxed quite well, used his jab nicely. Benavidez was just trying to walk into range. He was kind of walking into the jab. He didn't care for his own jab at all, Benavidez. He wanted to get up close. And Yarde as well, implementing a lot of feints into his work, which I like to see, especially from the bigger guys. Round 3 was a close round. I felt that Yarde boxed quite well again, but he was negative at times. He was on the ropes a couple of times, and he was countering off of them. But Benavidez was also letting his hands go. It was a hard round to score that third. And that mad moment at the end of the 4th round where Benavidez sort of seemed to hold Anthony Yarde and hit him with his other hand, his loose hand, the left hand. He landed about 20 shots. Yarde took them all in the face. I was surprised he wasn't hurt from that, but it was a big Benavidez round, and I felt like he was starting to feel himself in there, starting to, warm up. He was waving Anthony Yarde in as well during the early parts of the round. He was really up for it there. Both men started to really let their hands go in the 5th round. I think that's where it started to warm up a little bit. Round 6, I felt Yard was having a really good round in the first half of it, but the second half he got absolutely pummeled. That's where we saw damage to his nose. It started bleeding. Benavidez started to swarm Anthony Yard. Anthony Yard as well abandoning his defence, trying to just trade with Benavidez. Benavidez outlanding him, mixing up his shots as well. He started to turn that savage switch on. And then obviously the 7th and final round, Benavidez goes straight out on the offence. Down goes Anthony Yard. Obviously, Benavidez hits him while he's down. Like I said, 2 points get deducted. I felt it was a little bit harsh from the referee, but this fight was never going to be going the distance. It was clear to see. And Yard's tank was rapidly emptying, and Benavidez was just getting, like I say, hotter and hotter. You could see the discomfort as well on Anthony Yard's face, and I felt in the end it was more of a mercy stoppage from the referee. He just jumped in. And obviously Anthony Yard was in trouble, I think, at the time, and maybe was slightly unable to defend himself on all of the offence from Benavidez. But yeah, I think the referee jumped in and it was more of a mercy stoppage. But yeah, the fight went just as expected, really. I felt that at times it was harsh from the commentary, comparing Yard's losses to Beterbiev and Kovalev, and saying that this one was a whitewash unlike them. I think that even though, he may not have won many rounds in this fight, it wasn't maybe as competitive as them, I still think it was harsh from the commentary to point that out, because he's got a very different style to those guys. Those guys are not as active as him, and Beterbiev and Kovalev not as active as Benavidez. He's got a totally different style. I think to point out that this one was as one-sided as it was a little bit needless to bring up from the commentary. I was actually impressed with Anthony in parts of this fight. Obviously, I knew or extremely felt that he was going to lose and he was going to be stopped, but he didn't look great in his last couple of fights as well, against Lyndon Arthur and stuff. So I actually saw more from him than I expected. So, I don't know. There's a few things to look at. I wouldn't mind seeing the Buatsi fight. I just think it's a shame for Anthony Yard. He's obviously come up in a division full of killers. Kovalev, Beterbiev, Bivol, Benavidez. There's no easy fights anywhere. You cannot pick up a belt easy. It's probably the toughest, most stacked division in boxing right now. So it's a tough time for him to come through, and he would have been a world champion in many other eras, but it doesn't look like it's going to be for him, unfortunately. But like I say, maybe he can get something cracking with Buatsi. Maybe if a few belts get vacated, then there might be an opportunity down the line. I think he's still sort of young enough, really, Yard, to come again, but it's going to be tough. He's got a lot of miles on the clock now. I wouldn't mind, like I say, seeing that I've said it so many times, we've got such a rich domestic scene over here. There's so many guys that are past domestic level that would be a great fight. Him and, for example, Craig Richards, him and Josh Buatsi, him and Zach Parker. There's so many good fights out there that can be made. Eddie, what did you make of that fight, if you saw much of it?
David Benavidez is really a monster. And it made me recognize it more in this fight than I did even in some of his other performances, like with Morrell and some of the other guys. Like, he done well, but it was just this, because I really respect Yard. Yard is a really tough, strong, mentally tough guy who goes for it. You know what I mean? He could punch. He has skills, underrated skills too, I think. Decent IQ. I just think that he gasses. That's the only thing I was really, like, in this fight was looking at. I figured Benavidez was going to get him out mid rounds, probably not even late. I think it was going to get to like the mid rounds, closer to like 7 and 8 or whatever. But I was thinking it was more going to be because of his gas tank and the fact that Benavidez was going to be so active and pressure and do what he does. But I wasn't sure that he was going to be able to continue to come forward just like foot on the gas, constantly putting his hands on him like he started to do in 2, 3, and 4. And it was because, I figured that Yard was, he's a hell of a puncher. He has a good one-punch power. He's strong. Like I said, he's tough. And I just didn't think that Benavidez would be able to do what he did. And, man, he surprised me. He surprised me in that I knew he could do those things, but I just didn't know that he could do it at that level and that explosive and with the hands that fast and just consistently throughout the rounds, you know, to just keep the same level of pressure and to push Yard to like have to almost just like, yo, I can't take this no more. You know what I mean? As tough as he is, you could just see his body, his face, things just started to break down. You know, his mental and somebody like that, the only thing that I would figure would have got him mentally would be the conditioning part. And that's not to say he's not in great shape. It's just something with certain guys they can't go to rounds, you know, and it's just they can't go to rounds long rounds consistently with that kind of damage or that kind of pressure, like, you know, when he fought Kovalev, when he fought Beterbiev, it's just eventually he's going to break down. And that was my issue with him going into this fight. But Benavidez was relentless, and you could see his IQ in there too. It's not just raw like aggression and punches and, you know, constantly just punching in bunches. There's IQ in it. There's little space and little timing hitches that he had in there where he was able to land such clean shots. And as tough as Yard is, man, and I was a big fan of Yard too. As tough as he is, you can't take that much pressure, that much damage over the course of a short period in a fight. It's gonna eventually show. And unfortunately for Yard, Benavidez was on his game to the top level because he really turned that thing up and held it up for the whole time. So Benavidez is truly the monster, man. He really is. Like I don't know many people that could deal with that dude from all the way up to heavyweight. It's gonna be a hell of a time they got to deal with this kid going forward.
Absolutely. Well, there we go. That wraps up the review part of the show. It's now time to welcome this week's special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former WBO #1 ranked super featherweight in the world. It is, of course, my very good friend, Mr. Archie Sharp. Archie, welcome back on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me on, Joey. How are you, mate?
Always good when speaking with you, Arch. That's the truth. We last spoke back in March. At the time, you were getting ready to fight Maxi Hughes. We haven't spoke since the fight. Fast forward to the fight itself. I drove up there to be there in person. It wasn't the best fight to watch. Scores were all over the place. Let's remember them. 7-5 on one card, 8-4 on another, 12-0 on the other card. All in favour of Maxi Hughes. It's been a little while now, Archie, but talk to me about that fight and how you kind of feel now looking back.
After obviously looking back at the fight, obviously on the night, I believe I was doing enough to nick the rounds. And I still, to be honest with you, even watching it back, I still can see where I thought I was winning the fight. It just, watching it back is hard because it is such a, like you say, it wasn't a great fight. In the sense, it was pretty painful to watch, you know, because there wasn't a lot of activity going on. It was a lot of moving and it was negative. It was a very negative performance, you know. That's the word I'm looking for, negative. So yeah, it's been a bit hard to watch back because when watching it, I can see the opportunities and I just didn't take them, you know. Like a few more jabs and a few more like just simple 1-2s down the middle would have basically won me the fight, I believe. So yeah, just a little bit more busier, and I could have beat a former world champion and be set up in a good position. But unfortunately, I thought I was doing enough on the night, so I kind of went into complacent mode and just kind of got complacent and just done the bare minimum.
Yeah, I think one thing that is worth mentioning is that obviously it was your first 12 rounder. You did the 12 and you did the 12 comfortably, but again, it's important to let people know you had more in the tank. Like you could have done more, but you didn't feel like you needed to, you know?
Yeah, exactly that. No, that's what was probably more frustrating as well. Like getting out of the ring, felt like I had another 10 rounds in me. Like the fitness and everything was really good. And you know when they say leave it all in the ring, and I didn't do that, and that's why I probably more annoyed with myself. But at the time, and when I was there on the night, and at the time, I thought I was doing enough, so I didn't feel like there was a need to step on anymore because, like I say, previous fights to Maxi, like previous fighters who have gone forward and engaged with Maxi, that's when he's kind of run with it. Like he took the opportunity and he's a good counter puncher. So I didn't really want to kind of get myself into that sort of fight. But looking back now, and do you know what? I'll be honest with you, Joe. I wish I just stuck with what I listened to so many people before the fight. Like some people telling me don't go southpaw with him. He's a good south, but I generally felt like I could have probably gone southpaw and beaten southpaw.
Yeah, it's been so tough because, like I say, you know, when you got up to number one with a WBO, there were people that were critical about the way that you'd got there. You know, you maybe hadn't boxed some of the bigger names and the rest of it, but it was what it was. You got your higher ranking, and when you've had a rough patch, obviously, with the Garner fight and this Maxi Hughes fight, and people are going, here we go, told you so. It's a guy that's got to number one, and we've kind of found out where his level is. However, if you actually go back and watch all of your fights, like I have, I've been there for pretty much all of them. You've boxed in so many different styles. You've literally stood in front of a guy, boxed in the pocket, and beaten good fighters. You've been a counter puncher. You've been on the back foot. You've been the man coming forward, being aggressive. You've done everything, but I feel like you maybe haven't got the right tactics, or you haven't got the tactics right on some of the biggest nights, and that's been the bad point. That's been where things have gone wrong. Even though you've shown that you can do it in the past, you can do it all, really, like I've always thought, you know.
Yeah, it's frustrating, and I'm glad you kind of said that, because that's what it boils down to. Like when people say to me about the Garner and the Maxi fight, like I know I can beat him. I've got the ability to beat him, and people say, "Oh, why didn't you?" But it's just bringing that Archie Sharp. So it is, Joe. I feel like I know so much in the sport. Like you say, boxing the back foot, have a fight, do whatever, southpaw, orthodox, square on, whatever style I can basically do. But it's doing it when it matters. For example, if I boxed like that against Gardner, then Gardner wouldn't have got anywhere near me. Obviously, I know I touched on before that the weight, that was the plan. But the weight drain, the weight killed me. But that is, I've gone from one extreme to another. I've gone from sitting in the pocket with a fighter, which I should have just boxed, to then going too negative. Do you know what I mean? But that was the Gardner fight, where Ryan comes forward so much, it didn't matter if I was on the back foot all night, because I'll just keep picking him off as he comes in. But with Maxi, he didn't really come forward that much, and when he did, it wasn't. It was different styles. You know, styles do make fights, and that just made a terrible fight, I think.
Yeah, and like I say, you know, when you go back to your corner and you're told that you win a round, it's hard. It's very hard, because a lot of them rounds were so close. A lot of them rounds were kind of what do you like type of rounds. Obviously, it has to be said, and it's a fact. You made Maxi Hughes miss a hell of a lot. I think some of the judges were just giving him rounds for simply coming forward, which is sad to see, but we do see it. Obviously,
I agree.
Go on.
I'm sorry to cut you off, Joe, but whilst you were just touching on that, that's exactly what Mark Tibbs said to me. When he watched the fight back, it wasn't, I lost because I got hit more. It was, you look negative. Like, he was just looked like he was the more active fighter, do you know? So I basically lost the fight for being negative and not getting hit. Like, the art of the game is hit and not get hit, but people thought I lost the fight because I just looked negative. So yeah, that's what Mark said to me as well.
Yeah. Honestly, it's like because again, I know that you had tons left at the end of the fight. It was as if like, you just didn't give it your all. Not to say that, but you're being told one thing in the corner. You don't feel like you need to take extra risks. This is what boxing is. Obviously, I would have liked to have seen you busier. I felt that there were many close rounds, which again, obviously, you barely got the rub of the green on. I feel like you've kind of answered this, Archie. But if you could go back in time now, what would you have done differently that night in Doncaster?
If I boxed in the next day, if we woke up next day, Sunday, and went again, it would have been a completely different fight, because
I believe that
there was a lot of boxes. There was a lot of boxes that was unticked, in the sense of I know I beat some elite fighters back in the day in the amateurs. You know what I mean? You had your McCormicks, your Callum Frenches, some great fighters. That was a long, long time ago, and that was probably my first fighting a former world champion at that sort of level. And you do question yourself a little bit and think, it's been a long time. And my first 12 rounder, first championship fight at lightweight, there was a lot of boxes unticked. But getting out of there and ticking them all, if I woke up next day and done that fight again, I would have just done, yeah, I would have definitely boxed it a lot different. I would have probably boxed him southpaw. I would have pushed the fight more and capitalised on the making him miss, because I made him miss so easy. It's just I needed to capitalise a little bit more.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And since the fight, you split with long-time trainer Richie Sawyer. Obviously, it's not the first time that you've left Richie. You ended up back with him, but you've gone again. Talk to me about that, Archie. Was that a tough decision?
Yeah, it was tough because it wasn't the split due to the fight. Like I say, I felt like I was in great shape. I felt that the tactics was right to an extent. It's just I just needed to throw a little bit more. As I made him miss, just come back a little bit more. So the tactic was right in the sense of make him draw him on, which we was doing, but I just needed to capitalise a little bit more. So there was nothing wrong with the training. I didn't leave Richard because of, we've lost the fight, it's time to change. Listen, we've all got lives outside of boxing, you know, and unfortunately for Richard at the minute, he's got things to sort out, you know. He's got a family, he's got things he needs to do himself, and boxing, he can't commit what the sort of hours that I need at the minute, if that makes sense. So yeah, he can't commit as much as he wants to, which is totally understandable. I speak to him every day still, so there's no hard feelings there. It's just that he can't commit to me as a fighter as he once could.
Right. Okay. And how's it going? Obviously now with Mark Tibbs, and why Mark Tibbs of all people?
Yeah, it's going well with Mark. I'm enjoying it. It's different. And he's just very well experienced, you know. And I think maybe, like, if you go back to the Hughes fight, having someone in the corner, he would have probably, I don't know, maybe sometimes you just need someone to help bring the better side out of you. Not saying that Richard couldn't do it, but with me and Richard, there's a lot of emotion now. I've been with Richard, trained me since I was 7 years old. He's like family, you know. So even though them little jabs I was flicking out, he thought it was enough to win the rounds. Whereas someone like Mark, who's very well experienced and been on the game for a long time at all sorts of levels, he might have said, look, I'll do X, Y, and Z. We're losing. We need to do this or whatever it is. So for me, working with Mark, yeah, it's more down to the fact of his knowledge in the corner and even having his dad around as well, Jimmy. It's just great knowledge. And I feel like, because they've said it themselves, I've got all the attributes, you know, southpaw, orthodox, fight, back foot, whatever it is. It's just bringing it all together on the night now when it matters, you know, and like I say, the big nights.
Yeah, yeah. And obviously you were hoping to bounce straight back into a big fight. That didn't happen. Tell us why that was unable to happen, Archie.
Well, I was hoping to be on that O2 show, Parker Wardley against Mitchell Smith for the WBO European lightweight title. But unfortunately, I was refused because I've had 2 losses back to back, which was the Gardner and Maxi, which I think is a bit harsh because Gardner's is a European champion now, and Maxi's a former world champion. So I think it's a bit harsh that I couldn't come back to WBO European level against someone like Smith, who's been out the ring for a little while. But they've said I need to fight. I need to get a win on the record, which obviously that's why we're fighting this weekend. But unfortunately, like I've said to you before, it's actually cost me money to fight this weekend. So I don't think people will understand that. But it's not a fight that I wanted. I wanted to be straight in the big mix, but the board, there's rules or whether it's, I don't know if it's a rule, Joey. I don't know if it's actually a rule. I'm not too sure how it really works. But they have just said to me, look, you need a win to be back into title fights.
So yeah, as you touched on, you're back out again this weekend at York Hall in a 6-rounder Sunday afternoon against Stefan Vincent on a top-tier boxing show. So yeah, again, just tell us. Well, you kind of answered really what the purpose of the fight is. It's just to get a quick win so you can get back in the bigger fights.
Yeah, so like I say, it's not something that I wanted to do, but look, it is what it is. I've been. That's basically what I've got to do. I've got no choice. Otherwise, I can't fight for any titles, so I've got to do it. And I've got to pay for it. At the end of the day, it's as simple as that. Like, I'll be paying for the opponent. I'm paying the promoter. I'm paying. It's costing me a few quid just to be able to get out. So as much as people don't want to see me in these sort of fights, I don't want to be in these sort of fights, and definitely don't want to be paying for them. Do you know what I mean? Because the idea of boxing is to make a living. So yeah, but it is what it is. I am where I am. I get Sunday out the way with. It's good, even though it's not the opponent that we want. It's a 6-rounder. There's things I need to still work on with Mark. It's my first fight with Mark. So the positive side of it is I've got a little bit of a heavier fighter who competes at a bigger weight, I think. Like I said, I'm fighting at 144 the day before weighing. So I'm against a bigger man. So I just got to practice what I need to practice on. And, yeah, look to get this kid out of there.
And yeah, again, it's crazy to go from obviously being paid to box and then having to pay to get a fight right before Christmas as well. It's not ideal. You haven't got to tell us exact figures, Archie, but how much roughly can this set a fighter back, all of the costs involved, just to get a quick win?
Well, look, I'll be honest with you, I don't know if you see a post of the girl who's also fighting on the show. Is it Stevie?
Yes,
Stevie,
Stevie
she's
Levy.
fighting. Yeah, I think she posted something that just cost her like 4,000 or 5,000 to get her opponent sorted out. So it's not like it's not cheap. And look, I've been very fortunate over the years. I've had a promoter, and I've not had to be on ticket deals. So I've been very, very fortunate over the years. But it just goes to show, but how these small shows, how hard it is for fighters and people to try and get off with a career. Because they've got to cover their opponent, they've got to cover house fees, it's a lot, and then that's without them before they even can earn any money, and then probably 50-50 on the tickets.
Yeah, 100%.
So, but yeah, it's definitely hard. It's a hard sport, and like I said, I've just been very grateful and fortunate that I was able to be on the side where I was able to have a promoter and go that way. But there's so many fighters out there, and I do feel for them. And well, I'm in that position now. I'm in that boat, like 27 fights later, and I'm having to do that.
Yeah, hopefully it's for a short period of time. But yeah, you're right. Obviously, we know there's a lot of good fighters that never cracked it and had to go back to normal jobs. Another thing about the Maxi Hughes fight, obviously it was your only fight at lightweight. I wanted to ask, what did your body feel like making that weight? And obviously on actual fight night, like compare that for me if you can to how you felt at super featherweight when you were draining yourself.
Yeah, it felt brilliant, because that's probably why I had so much energy left, because some of them fights at super featherweight, at the end of the fights, I've been feeling a bit fatigued and tired, and it's not because of my training. Like, I train hard. Like, I live the life. I train hard, and but I just felt like the weight was just getting to me too much. And fighting at 135, I felt really good for it. I felt strong, and I think obviously that's what happened. I've touched on it before. Obviously, when I got chin checked at what's it called at the York Hall that time in May, before the Gardner fight in the first round, I had a bit of a wobbler. I generally do believe that was someone telling me then, like, look, super featherweight is too much, 130 is too much because of resistance there. But I know obviously there was a shot that landed on Maxi, but I was all right in there. I know it was a quick shot, but other than that, I felt good. The resistance felt good. I felt strong. Fitness felt well. I'm looking forward to getting back out. I know this one ain't at 135. It's obviously a lot heavier, but that's probably another thing I'm looking forward to at 135 is getting back out and people seeing the difference.
Yeah, I mean, I'll never forget when I walked in the gym when you were getting ready for Maxi, and I was just shocked at how much bigger you looked from your days at Super Feather. I'll never forget that. I came in and it was as if someone had cut your head off and put it on someone else's body. You looked so strong, so much bigger. Your whole frame looked bigger. Yeah, I wanted to ask as well, did you happen to see the Sam Noakes fight on the weekend against Abdullah Mason? If so, what did you think?
Yeah, I watched it. I thought it was a great fight. Do you know what I mean? Fair play to Sam. He made a really good fight of it. Fair play to both men, It was probably one of the fight. It could be contender of the year. It was a great fight.
Yeah, honestly, an absolute barn burner it was. Yeah, gutted for Sam, but wow. And also, obviously, I'm assuming, well, it goes without saying, 2026 is going to be the year of getting back on track for you. Is there any names on your radar, Archie, or not just yet?
Well, at the minute, obviously, the main thing I want to do is, which I didn't, I want to be fighting Mitchell Smith for the WBO European title. Like, I want to pick that back up. I just see the other day he's number 14 in the WBO, after winning that against Arnie Dawson. So I need to go and get that, and then it puts me back in there. I think that's a good story, I got to number 1 for 2 years in the WBO. Things happened, and never got my shot. Where now I'm going again, but the weight above. Do you know what I mean? I think this is a great story. And I want to climb the rankings and get up there and fight for a world title.
And what did you think of his win over Arnie Dawson? Because I think you thought that was going to be a tough fight.
Yeah, listen, I don't think he had it his own way. I think he had it all his own way. But the thing is, Arnie Dawson, the reason why I thought Arnie would win, because obviously Mitchell's been out for so long. But then at the end of the day, no disrespect to Arnie, he is a novice fighter. I just thought maybe the hype might have caused him a bit of trouble, but he's still got a lot to learn. Arnie, in the sense he's a good fighter and he'll come back, but he's just very young, very like novice at the minute, you know. So yeah, I don't know. It is what it is. Mitchell done well. He got the belt. And now I just got to kind of... It was good for him, though, because I feel like if it happens for a reason, he had a story there that he wanted to kind of get going, you know. He blew up a load of weight, come back, done it all again, won the belt again. It's a good story, but if I boxed him that night, that story wouldn't have come true for him. So it's a good little story for him to have, and now I just got to go and do what I know I can do.
It'll be a great fight for 2026. And my final question for you, Archie, December 19th, what are you making of this? Anthony Joshua, Jake Paul.
Yeah, so that's December 19th, yeah. So, well, AJ's got to do the business, isn't he? He's got to get it done within 1 or 2 rounds and, like, make a major statement doing it. So, yeah, there's a lot of pressure on him, I think. There's more pressure on him than the other fella.
For sure. Oh, God, what a crazy fight. Only in boxing. And just before we let you go, if you've got any closing words to the listeners, Archie.
Just like always, man, I'm very grateful for everyone. And I know, do you know what it is as well, Joe? For years now, I've been saying this year. So in a minute, it's going to come off and then it all will be worth it. So stay tuned and it will all come true.
Exciting times ahead, my friend. Listen, Archie, the pleasure's mine as always. Thanks for your time. Best of luck for Sunday and we'll speak afterwards, I'm sure.
Oh, God bless you, mate. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part usually the news part of the show. We're going to dive straight in, though, to the preview part as there's nothing once again. We're going to start here at the Sport Complex D. Wilgenring in Rotterdam, Netherlands. Over here we have friend of the show, friend of yours, Eddie, Hughie Fury, 30-3, back in an 8-rounder against Michael Webster, who's 10-3. People might remember Michael Webster. He lost his last fight to Jamie TKV, and then he lost twice to Solomon Dakers. The first one was a close fight. It was a majority decision for Dakers. The second time, Dakers stopped him. But anyway, he's lost those 3 fights. Other than that, he's got 10 wins all prior to those. So yeah, it should be a relatively straightforward win really for Hughie Fury. Moving now then to this one here. It goes down at the Valent Live in Derby. Over here, this one's going to be live on BBC Two. I'm actually excited to see what that's going to look like on terrestrial TV. But yeah, it's not a fantastic card, but we're kicking things off here with Boxer on BBC Two. And we are going to start with Francesca Hennessy, 6-0, back for the vacant WBC International Bantamweight title. 10-2 minutes against Fabiana Bitiki, who is 22-2 with 2 draws. 2-2-2-2 is her record. Like I say, Francesca Hennessy 6-0. It's a bit of a step up, really, but I'm expecting her to come for it. I do believe she's got enough ability to pick up a world title at some point, but the main event is really the main attraction. Fraser Clark, currently 9-1 with a draw. This one for the vacant British heavyweight title. He's back here in a 12-rounder against Jamie TKV. Fraser Clark obviously coming off that win last time, a first round knockout of Ebenezer Tete back in April. And that was it. We only saw him for a very short period in that fight, obviously coming off the loss to Fabio Wardley, where he looked like... Well, he was left in terrible condition in that fight, wasn't he? But that was only a 1-round fight as well. So he's actually only boxed 2, not even full rounds of boxing since his draw with Wardley back in March of last year. So that's not too active at all. He gets in with Jamie TKV. It's a big ask for Jamie TKV, to be honest with you. But yeah, TKV's coming off that performance against David Adelaide, where I felt he was boxing quite well until the... controversial finish, really. I know that Jamie TKV's an underdog here. It might be worth backing him just with something small. I do think he's overpriced, really, as an underdog. We're going to move on, though. Hopefully that's a good fight there on BBC Two. This one clashes, though, sadly, with this one. It's going to be live on DAZN. It's Eddie Hearn's show, National Exhibition Centre in Birmingham, West Midlands. Over here we have Cameron Vuong, who is currently 9-0. He's back in the ring. He steps in with Gavin Gwynn, 18-4 with a draw. This one over 10 rounds. Obviously, we know it's a rematch. The first one was a really good fight, and I felt that Gavin Gwynn did enough to win the fight, but yeah, he lost that fight first time round, unanimous decision loss. I'm trying to remember if the scores were close. I think they were quite close in the end, but Gwynn was cut, both eyes, and yeah, this is going to probably be quite a good fight again. Hopefully he doesn't get cut and the rest of it. He did come back with a win in the meantime. Cameron Vuong as well went away, beat Jordan Flynn, which was a good performance, and then picked up another routine victory. But yeah, the rematch is on, so I'm really looking forward to that one, to be honest, on the undercard, quite far down the undercard. We also have a really, really, really interesting fight here between Zelfa Barrett, 33-3, and Liam Dillon, 15-4 with a draw. Liam Dillon, he lost the fight, but he didn't look too bad against Pierce O'Leary. Gave him a really tough fight. I was at that fight in Ipswich. After that, he come back and lost to Ahmed Hatim. That was back in September, so he's actually coming off 2 back-to-back losses. He steps in with Zelfa Barrett over 8 rounds. Barrett, like I say, 33-3. He's coming off 2 wins, but they were really against much lower level opposition. Obviously lost to Jazza Dickens back in February, so he's come back with 2 wins at low level since then. I think this is a tough fight, and he has to start fast, because we know that Liam Dillon is going to have no issues whatsoever going 8 rounds. Fast pace, come forward fighter. I again would be tempted to put something small on Liam Dillon here for the upset. I've got to be honest, I don't know what Zelfa Barrett's got left. And then the main event for the vacant WBC silver light heavyweight title, we have over 10 rounds. Ben Whittaker, 9-0 with a draw, coming off that stoppage last time in the rematch with Liam Cameron. He steps in with Benjamin Gavazzi, who's 19-1 with 13 KOs. German fighter, never been stopped in that one loss. It was just a points loss on his debut against an undefeated fighter. He never did have the rematch with that guy, but he's gone on and, like I say, racked up 19 wins in a row since then. I can't say I've seen anything of the guy, and I don't really recognise any of these names on his record, so I don't know what to expect from him, but of course you've got to favour Ben Whittaker massively in that one. We're going to move now stateside. Just one fight to mention over here at the Pechanga Resort and Casino, again Saturday night. This one's in California. We have over here just one fight to mention, really. We got a guy called Lazaro Lorenzana, who's 18-0. He's back in a 10-rounder against friend of the show, Luis Arias, who's 22-5 with a draw. All the best to Luis Arias, who's a friend of the show. We always mention fights for every friend of the show ever, no matter where it is or at what level the fight's at. So shout out there to Luis Arias. Hopefully he can get the job done. And then, we move to the final card to mention, which of course goes down at York Hall, Bethnal Green, London, live on DAZN on Sunday afternoon. We spoke to him earlier on. Archie Sharp, 25-2, back against Stefan Vincent, who is 2-40. It's we know what it is. Archie pretty much explained the point of the fight. He's actually having to pay his opponent to fight him. It's over 6 rounds there at 144 pounds, so an agreed kind of catch weight. Also on that card, I will just mention Malik Zinad, 23-1. People might remember the name. He boxed on a Saudi card against Dimitri Bivol. Bivol ended up stopping him. He's back on this card, weirdly enough. That's a weird one. 23-1. The one lost to Bivol. He steps in with Ante Bilic, who's 32-3. That's over 8 rounds there again at York Hall. That, though, brings the preview part to a close. In part 1, we did the review part. Then we welcomed our special guest, Archie Sharp. In part 2, there was no news once again, but we did wrap up the show with the preview part, as always. The final thing for me to do is to come in with the outro, which I'll do in just a few seconds. Okay, and this wraps up episode 527 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A massive shout out to this week's special guest, one of my true, very good friends in the sport. It is, of course, Mr. Archie Sharp, the former WBO super featherweight #1 contender in the world. The biggest thanks of all, though, goes out to you, the listeners. Thanks once again for tuning in. That is about everything now from myself. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we'll see you all again same time next week.